Back on Get Up, our resident general manager is Mike Tannenbaum. We're going to play a game of NFL Draft Matchmaker. I got Super Bowl contenders, and you're going to give me matches that are going to put those teams over the top. We're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. They pick late in round one. Give me the perfect match to get Josh Allen to a Super Bowl.
Greedy, Denzel Boston, wide receiver, University of Washington. Incredibly productive career, 132 catches, 20 touchdowns. We're going to look at one of them here. Big physical guy. I think he's a perfect complement to DJ Moore. They got two productive tight ends. They didn't hit on Keon Coleman. Let's make Josh Allen more productive from the pocket. Denzel Boston is the perfect fit.
I love that pick. We hear so much about some of the other receivers in this class. Not enough about him. He will go round one. I love that one. Let's go to the NFC. The Detroit Lions. Hugely disappointing a year ago, but still thinking Super Bowl thoughts. Who is their perfect round one match?
All right, well, with that in mind, the Bills are in the market for a speed rusher off the edge. I think they have some power players on the roster right now. They also, you can make the argument, could use a little extra at receiver too. I know in your latest mock, you had the Bills taking a receiver 26th overall in Denzel Boston. What appeals to you about that fit specifically for Buffalo?
He's a ball winner, and you give Josh Allen a guy with size who can win down the field, can win vertically, can win along the sideline. I think he could be a big slot if you wanted him to. And so just the different ways that you could mix him into your current wide receiver rotation, I think would make a ton of sense. I have my 7-round mock coming out this week. And so hopefully, the listeners will check that out when it's up. But I'll spoil the Bills pick. And I did go edge rusher, and I did go with a speed guy. And it's interesting, when you look at Brandon Beane and his draft history with Buffalo, they've always gone for more of the bigger, the 270-pound guys that aren't bad athletes by any means, but they win more with power. And so I went kind of a little bit of the opposite. I went with Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher from UCF, who is closer to 250, 255, but 40-inch vert. The 10-yard split is outstanding. Long player, so still has that length. But that first step explosiveness, the burst around the arc, his ability to affect the quarterback with that speed is something that I think would fit perfectly with what Buffalo wants to be on defense.
And how deep does this class go? We've heard the deep wide receiver. We've heard deep edge. And then for the interior defensive tackles, it's down further down the line in depth-wise. How many guys at edge? Because I've told Brownie, the Bills have 7 picks. I bet 2 of them are going to be edge rushers. They're going to pick another guy up just in case. And if they do, he may be a third-day pick who's got outstanding traits and have some other thing out here keep dropping him down the board. But how deep does this class go at edge? And how many, I don't know if you can put an exact number on it, how many guys you expect to have really good pro careers coming out of college this year at the edge class?
Yeah, we're going to see these guys fly off the board in the first 3 rounds. In the top 100 picks, at least, I would guess 16 pass rushers, if not more. Maybe a few others get in there just because the value of the position. And so, we're obviously at the top, guys like Arvell Reese and David Bailey. I think Ruben Bain will be in the top 12 picks. And then the late first will be interesting to see the order they come off the board. And then, who will still be there when the Bills pick. Akeem Mesidor, who's an older player, but you know what you're getting out of the box. I don't think there's a lot of guesswork with Mesidor, which is one of the values of, he's an older player, but he's going to help us from day one, and we know exactly what we're getting. I think TJ Parker from Clemson may be missing a little bit of the wow factor, but his ability to use that leveraged power, the ability to just nonstop, doesn't matter first quarter, fourth quarter, he's giving you the same effort every single snap. I think teams love that about him. I mentioned Lawrence, Zion Young, Cassius Howell, the Michigan guys, Derek Moore and Barham, Gabe Akis from Illinois is a really underrated player in this draft. I think Kieran Crawford from Auburn. A lot of scouts were focused on Keldrick Falk, who's a good player. I think he'll be a first-round pick. But they came away talking about number 24 on the other side in Crawford because of the juice that he was bringing off the edge. So, yeah, this is a really deep edge rush group. And to your point, I think even into day 3, there are some underrated pass rushers who are going to get snatched up pretty quickly. Wide receiver and edge, I think those 2 positions are really, really deep and spots where you feel like, okay, we could go that way in the first round, But we don't have to because we feel good about our day 2 options at those 2 spots.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, 30 edge rushers came off the board in last year's draft. Wouldn't be surprised if the number gets close to that again this year. Yeah. You mentioned players that are older, and that was a theme to some degree last year. It seems to be even more pronounced this year as we get the last of the COVID players coming out in this class. One guy who's got some unbelievable tape is Arizona's Trayden Stukes. At times, he looks like a man among boys, and in a way, he is. He'll be 25 years old by the time he starts his rookie season. It was a bit surprising, I guess, to see 8 other corners ahead of him on your list. How much do you see his age impacting where he comes off the board?
Yeah, that is part of it. I think some teams will care more than others on
injury. They did bring back Braxton Jones, but is he really the answer there at left tackle? Give him a deal, bring him in, let him be your left tackle, protect the blind side of the quarterback. I think that would make a lot of sense. And I'll give you another one. In the same division, the Lions, they also could use a left tackle. So teams inside the division should be calling him and trying to get him probably on a short-term deal now if he's available this long, but I think he can step in right away and start for both those teams.
I love to hear that. Those are some good options out there. Let's talk about a guy we've been talking about quite a bit, actually, wide receiver Jauan Jennings. He's been incredibly reliable for San Francisco, especially on third downs and in the red zone. Pete, what team would benefit the most from getting him?
Well, you look at the Eagles, and they're talking about trading A.J. Brown. I don't think they will, but you never know. Somebody might knock their socks off and give him a great offer. Even if they don't, bringing this big-bodied receiver in there on a short-term deal would make a lot of sense. They could use another guy in the passing game. And I think, look, he's been a productive guy on 50-50 balls. He can get the good plays in the red zone. He's, one of those big physical receivers. Not going to run by a lot of people. But I think this is the kind of guy that maybe the Eagles would look at. And I'll give you a second destination. I mean, if you're the Raiders and you want to get a big body receiver, he might make some sense there as well. So those are a couple teams, but I think the Eagles would really make some sense.
Love when you give us more than one team, Pete. Makes me happy. How about Joey Bosa? We all have seen it. Proven pass rusher, 77 career sacks. When healthy, he makes a huge difference. Where do you want to see him?
Yeah, and he had a career high in forced fumbles last year. Even if his pass rush wasn't as good as it's been in the past, he was a productive player for Buffalo. I'd like to see him go play with his brother. I mean, look, the San Francisco 49ers, why not? Give him a one-year deal. Let them both go out there. Now, the brother's coming off a major injury, and we'll see how that plays out. But and they have some young pass rushers they like as well. But I think that would make a lot of sense for the 49ers to bring him in, reunite him with his brother. They played, they were not the same age, but they played at the same high school, played at the same college. So I think getting them on the same team would kind of be a lot of fun.
Bills Mafia, let me ask you a dangerous question. What if the Buffalo Bills do not need another receiver built for September, but one built for snow, contact, red zone fights, and those ugly playoff possessions where somebody has to go take the football? Ha, because that is what makes Jauan Jennings such a fascinating idea for Buffalo right now. He's not the sexy name people scream about first. He's not the OMG blockbuster guy. But he might be one of the smartest possible additions the Bills could make if Brandon Beane wants to round out this wide receiver room with a completely different flavor. And the timing matters because Jennings is being treated publicly as a free agent and is not expected back with San Francisco. So if Buffalo wants him, this is not about negotiating a trade, it is about winning the free agent recruitment. Now, think about the football side. The Bills already have DJ Moore officially on the roster, and that move brought more explosiveness to Josh Allen's world right away. Khalil Shakir is still one of the trust pieces in the room. Keon Coleman gives you size and developmental upside. Joshua Palmer adds another route-running option. But Jennings would bring attitude. He would bring edge. The 49ers listed him at 6'3" and 212 pounds, and in 2025, he caught 9 touchdowns. Oh, that is the part that jumps off the page for me. 9 touchdowns. That is not accidental. That is a receiver who knows how to finish drives, wall off defenders, and be useful when spacing gets tight. That is exactly the kind of player Josh Allen can use when a game gets muddy and the weather gets nasty. And that is where Jennings would fit in Buffalo. not as the headline star, as the missing texture. He would be the receiver who helps the offense feel complete, the boundary target who can absorb contact, the tough middle-of-the-field option who can punish defenses for focusing too much on Moore or Shakir, the blocker who helps the run game and the screen game function with more edge. Oh man, when you think about Buffalo trying to be more complete in playoff football, that type of receiver suddenly becomes a whole lot more valuable than some people realize. This is not about fantasy stats, it's about functionality. So what is the solution if the Bills want him? Pretty simple. Make a smart free agent offer before somebody else sells him on a bigger role, because there are two reasons this feels possible. One, he is still unsigned, which suggests the market has not fully met whatever contract he originally hoped for. Two, Buffalo is the exact kind of team that can sell a player on meaningful football, catch passes from Josh Allen, join a contender, compete for a ring, rebuild value in a big offense. Yeah, that sales pitch is real. And if the contract becomes manageable, say a shorter-term structure, incentive-based upside, something that lets both sides win, this starts looking like a really clean move for the Bills. So my take is this: Jauan Jennings is not the loudest move Buffalo could make, but he might be one of the most practical. No trade cost, real production, real size, real toughness, a proven touchdown scorer who can help Josh Allen in the parts of the field where games are won late in the year. Bills Mafia, tell me what you think. If the money is right, should Buffalo bring in Jauan Jennings and make this receiver room meaner, deeper, and more playoff ready? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in, because the smartest roster moves are usually the ones that make the whole offense harder to deal with, not just louder on social media.